Can't even go live stream. Hold on. Doug.
Yes. Okay, here I am.
All right. We're live.
Really, I couldn't be any better than I am right now.
No, I love it. You're always so positive. I love it.
Well, you know what? I think that gets into that topic of self-talk. And many times we have a conversation about, you know, how you feel and what your attitude is what you say to yourself. And I never talk negative to myself. Doug 1 never talks to Doug 2. And it's always very complimentary, encouraging conversations.
No, self-talk is really important. I tell my kids all the time, what you say goes into your subconscious mind, and it's really important to always have positive self-talk. I'm a big advocate of that.
Yeah, there's no question that I think that, you know, self-talk is a big important part of our life. And, you know, I think especially now in our country, you know, I believe in education, learning things, and I've always talked about it. You can graduate, but you never stop learning. Well, you know, sometimes I think things change, you know, and schools certainly have changed and teachers have changed. And I know a lot of teachers, and I'm very good friends with them, and respect each other. But I think there's an element of teachers right now that go way beyond what is written in books, and they're becoming TV announcers. They're becoming a guest host, and they're giving their 2 cents. They're interpreting everything that we're doing in life. And, you know, if you continually, you know, I think we are who our habits are. You know, I am certainly. I just wake up every morning. I don't even think. I just start doing things. I eat a coffee, you know, drink a cup of coffee. I don't look at the newspaper because there are no newspapers anymore. You know, I turn on television for a little bit, make sure that, you know, country's still here. We still have a spot in Washington, D.C. that, you know, commands respect and ideas, and then, you know, start working on my day, and, you know, adding to the list that I made the night before of things that I had to get done. And it is amazing, Megan. I'll tell you, this morning I woke up at about 4:30. And that's about when I would get up when I used to work on the garbage truck, 4 to 4:30. And it's amazing. By the time it's 12 o'clock, you feel like you've done an entire day's work. Well, you have, you know, because you've had all this time to put to it. And I like working in environments where no one's bothering you. I don't get any calls at 6 or 7 o'clock. Well, I get some because, you know.
I agree 100%. That's why I wake up at 5 or 6 in the morning.
Yeah, but you and I are on the West Coast, Pacific Coast time. So, you know, there's going to be people from the East Coast that are going to be calling us. It's 6 o'clock here, it's 9 o'clock there. So, you know, but you know what? I think there's something wonderful about telling yourself, man, you almost did a full day's work and it's not even noon yet. You accomplished so many things. But you know what? You were motivated, you anticipated, you had already written it down. You were in all night, you were thinking about it. You know, that's a big part of our life that nobody thinks about. I don't want to dream about boogeymen and getting chased by a wild pack of dogs at night. I want to start reading and planning things in my brain. So I regurgitate those things all night, you know, whether I'm being tested the next day, whether I'm meeting somebody. I found another thing that's really works well with when you're trying to establish relationships with people. Why don't you do a little bit of your homework, which is so easy now on the different things that are on the computer, whatever your search engine is, you type in that person's name. There's amazing amount of things. You know, it isn't just the presidents and the vice presidents and the, you know, Congress that, or athletes or entertainers that have, man, they get down to the nitty gritty. I mean, you know, you and I probably have a whole encyclopedia stuff that we can talk about that's it on those lists. And But when you talk to somebody for the first time and you're able to regurgitate stuff that they did in high school, college, other important parts of their career, which changed their life, they're blown away. I mean, I don't know how you are, but when I meet people and they start telling me I grew up in Pennsylvania, Western Pennsylvania, and I went to Ohio State and Woody Hayes, and we won 3 Big Ten championships, and I graduated with this degree. Hey, I'm impressed. It's like they didn't just wait to see who I was or meet me or anything. They did a little bit of homework, and it's just like you and I talked before, where I wrote some handwritten notes to people that I had worked for, and very important people, billionaires, people that own NFL teams, and how they responded to me, which was very touching. Thanking me, and just out of respect, instead of just sending a voicemail, an email, take the time, put a couple of goofy, you can put a couple emojis on it or whatever. But it's powerful because that person wrote those words. It isn't like they typed them, on some sort of a keyboard. They wrote those words. Those words came right out of their brain. And so I think there's things like that we could all do and just try to learn, on a daily basis in our interactions with other people, how to treat them and how to act.
Okay, so I'm super excited for you because you're going to Chicago tomorrow to sign autographs. Talk.
You know what? It's really amazing.
Listen, you always talk about how old you are. You're not old, but you're going again to sign autographs in Chicago tomorrow. You're such a superstar.
Well, it's funny because I'm really admiring the group of players that they had, and I wasn't an NFL Hall of Famer, All Pro, most valuable player on the team. And I'm not saying I was some kind of a, migrant or, some kind of a person that just came in on the team. Nobody knew who I was. Yeah, I was well known, but, not to be like Hall of Fame material. And this event I'm going to is it's big. It's, there's a lot of major people, not just from Chicago, but all around the country.
Well, you're number 46 events. Don't ever forget that.
You know what it is? I really respect the people that put these things together because you and I have talked about this, trying to attract athletes into things that we're doing, whether we're trying to do interviews or write books or whatever the case might be. Sometimes those people, even though they maybe aren't real popular, aren't getting real well paid now, they did. It's like being president of the United States. You're always going to be the ex-president or whatever. And that's kind of like it is with NFL players. They hold this mystique, personally, like, hey, I did something special. I'm one of 100,000 persons that ever played this game, and I played it all these years and things like that. And yeah, it's kind of unique. It's one of a kind. And now that I start seeing football games again on television now, watching college games, pro games, although the hitting is a lot less than it used to be. Believe me, when I played, some of the objective of playing the other team was to hit them as hard as you could, make them pay, and so it was just one of those things, but a lot of people hit me hard too. So it was something that drove you on a day in, day out basis, and now they've changed the rules just slightly and they have to go back. Like when I played, there was no like instant replay. I mean, there was, but no, it was maybe used like 2 times a season. Nobody was looking at it every play. Oh, you hit that guy wrong. You targeted him. That's terrible. No, nobody ever told me that. No official, none of my other players, no players on the other team. So it was like demolition derby. You put your, feet and your body on that field, and you tell the other team, we're going to wear you down. We're coming after you every single play. We're going to throw you on the ground. We're going to pile on top, and we're going to see how many times you can put up with it. A typical game, depending on how the offense or defense did, you're looking at 70, 80 plays. Do anything 70 or 80 times. Open an umbrella 70 or 80 times. You sooner or later are going to poke yourself in the eye with it or stick it down in your foot or something. It's not easy doing things where you're colliding with other people like that, play after play after play, and not have something happen.
I have to apologize. I'm holding my shoulder because, I told you I got hit by a truck when I was bicycling for exercise. And my orthopedic surgeon told me to take off my sling and say, And he said, you got to take off your sling. You have a broken shoulder. He said, eventually you have to start using your arm. And so, gosh, what a transition. Like I told you before, I feel so guilty complaining because after all of your surgeries and everything you've been through, but I'm just holding my shoulder because it's I don't know how you got through all the things you got through because I feel like a wimp. I feel like compared to you.
Well, we one thing you don't have a doctor like we had, and we called him Dr. Needles because he came around with a big pack of needles all the time. 4 inches, 3 inches, 2 inches. So depending on what you had wrong with you, if it was a hip or a knee, then that thing was going to look like 3 or 4 inches long. And he was going to go in there and take out all your inflammation, drain the knee. Then he was going to put some cortisone, some drug that is like instant repair. It's like repairing a flat tire on a bike.
I don't have any of that stuff. I have ibuprofen.
No, you know what? I'm sorry. Tylenol, things like that, that would have done nothing. I mean, you gotta go out there and really, you have to have something inside of you that can mask that pain because, we all have different tolerance to pain. I feel like I have a pretty high tolerance. Not at first. I was like every other crybaby. I got hurt, I cried. And, but as you go through life, and you get hit or hurt over and over and over again, Megan, it's like if you would have played some version of football, women's football or something, or, although yours was very competitive psychologically in what you did, as far as those beauty contests. But when you continue to get injured over and over and over again, you know what? Really, you learn, that's an injury. I mean, when you feel the pain, you go, okay, well, then you have to use the other shoulder. God gave us 2 shoulders, 2 arms, 2 legs. So even if one gets chopped off or you can't use it anymore, you got the other one, and I know people that, were handicapped on one side of their body. It is amazing. They became experts at the other side. It was maybe they were right-handed.
Exactly what's happened to me. I'm right-handed. And so I'm doing everything with my right hand, everything with my right hand. And it's so funny because I'm determined I'm ambidextrous.
Yes. But you know what? Really think about it. The more you do that, it becomes, when you first do it, you have to think about it. Okay, left hand, I got this thing in my hand. I got a Q-tip here. I'm trying to clean the wax out of my ears. You're poking yourself in the face and, because your left hand, you don't know how to work it. After a few days, you're down. You're an expert. You're putting that Q-tip in your ear right away and shaking hands and, just doing a whole bunch of things. And so, yeah, we're really, our habits. And I just plead with people, don't get caught up in things that you don't want to do. Don't let yourself just be talked into wasting an evening with somebody you don't really want to be around. To hear the same stories that person's been telling you for 20 years. Come on, do I have to do it again? Do I have to sit and listen for another night? The same stories? Ha ha ha. Yeah, that was funny. No, it's not funny. I'm sick of it. I'd rather do something else. I'd rather study geography or history or something than hear those same stories. Because in some respect, I'm getting the same history from him. It's only history I don't care about. And so I just think that I just challenge everybody. Hey, listen, do things that you haven't done up to this point in time in your life. People say, what do you mean? What are you talking about? Well, just when go through your day, ask people questions. Especially if they are in positions of power, I always love to ask them questions. How did you get here? Sometimes they say it was my dad. My dad was here. I filled his job. Sometimes they just say, I got a break. I got a break. I met somebody. I mean, how many times in your life did you meet somebody and just because of someone they met, their success took off? A lot of coaches that I know right now, it's not that they were better coaches than anybody else. They met a coach in college, the NFL, in high school that was a great coach, and they associated with him. And by associating with him, it's almost like you acquire his skills and abilities. At least people think you do. And, you know, it's like you were trained under him. And, you know, that's all that matters. And, you know, that'll take you a long distance. And you got to just always be, you know, encouraging. And, you know, coaching is like being a parent, a teacher. You know, it's all the same.
All right, so I got to ask you, what's the update on your latest license you're getting?
Well, you know, I was, you know, you're always learning new things.
I'm excited to hear how, because you're so driven and get so many licenses and so many different things.
Well, here's my point right now. I start out, you know, some of the other topics that I started out learning a few months ago, I accessed old information. And it was information that was around 20, 30 years ago. But how you took that information and applied it to your test is really what's important. And right now, whether it's schoolwork or all these licenses, if you go online, this is the beauty of online, you can find something or someone that has taken those tests over and over and over again, and they've done a recapture of all the questions and answers. And they've now put those into other tests. And now what they do, they market them around the country. So I'm not ashamed to tell you, I bought 500 questions. And I truly feel that 80 or 90% of the tests that I take, those questions are going to be on the test. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not cheating. I didn't do anything wrong. I'm studying. Everything you do is studying. I mean, it's like when you turn 16 and you go out there and you're trying to drive with a, you know, either a driver's assistant or whatever, and driver's ed, and you're driving a car. Isn't that cheating? You don't have a license. What are you doing driving a car that could kill somebody or run over someone? And it doesn't matter who's sitting next to you, your mother, your father, some driver assistant. What does he know? And if he does know, like, what he thinks you should be doing, how long is it going to take for him to get from the other side of the car over to you and grab the steering wheel? Or what's he going to do about stopping the car? How is he going to stop the car? Well, some cars are specially made for school teachers. They'll bring the brake pedal, and they'll put it also on the passenger side. I've had a lot of people that wish they could have a car like that.
Well, teach you to drive. I had a friend of mine in Dallas. She had a business where she was, you know, she taught you to get your license and taught you to drive. And she had a brake on the right-hand side. And we saw his visit, and she would always joke about the fact that when you're driving with student drivers, you gotta like put the brake on.
You're right. You know what though? They're so freaked out that you know they don't even hear you. You know, they're thinking of steering wheel and, you know, driving and not shifting gears, because most of the cars are automatic now. But, you know, at least the person on the other side can push his foot on the brake. Now, here's my point. If you're going down a highway though, and your driver is crazy, and they're going from lane to lane to lane, but you know what? There's some guy behind you in a semi or a big pickup truck, and he's riding your bumper. Hey, listen, to all those out there in America, we've all had people riding our bumper. I know, because I used to be a bumper rider. I would get right up behind people. Does 4 or 5 brakes in the car in front of you make any difference whether you hit them in the back? Absolutely not, Megan. They could put 4 teachers in the car. You know, there could be 2 in the back, the guy sitting over here on the passenger seat, put them in the middle between you and the driver. They could all have a brake. Now, I've seen enough crazy drivers that are young it's more than a brake. You need a steering wheel, because not only are they putting themselves in bad situations, but here's the other thing. If you're driving crazy and you're somebody tailing you who's right on your bumper, like a big semi, do you really want to put your brake on? I don't. When I see like 18 wheels behind me driving and they're like 3 feet away from my back bumper, the last thing I'm thinking about is putting the brake on. I am not putting the brake on. I am pedal to the metal. It's just like in football. You go crashing up there, running up for your safety spot. You're running right in the middle of all these players. Last thing you're thinking about doing is stopping. You're like 190 pounds. Who are you going to tackle? Who are you going to hit? These guys are all like 250, 260. What the difference is, you have speed and you have momentum. And the moment you give that up, you give up your advantage. So every time I was on a football field, no, I didn't want to stop for anything. That's why sometimes, when I was playing, people are watching a TV screen and here comes some guy whoom, through the screen. Like, what was that? That was me. I was just running past the pile just in case that running back broke a tackle and he was going to go a little bit further. I was going to let him have it. And
it's so funny. My friend, Arnie Costello, who is a pitcher, which you don't know him, but he was a left-hand pitcher, played at the same time you did. And he's so much like you. And he's like, my whole goal was to strike and kill everybody out. And it's like funny, because you were in baseball, he was in football. I said, but his whole philosophy was, I'm on the field and I'm going to kick your butt. And someday you'll meet him. You would love him, because he had the same philosophy that you always had. Is, I'm going to strike every single person out, and I'm going to make sure it happens.
There was one guy in baseball I really, really liked, the Cincinnati Reds, Pete Rose, and he was like one of these guys. These guys were just talking. He would have been a great business partner, because Pete never stopped. I don't know if he ever slept. He just kept going. No half speed, no jogging, nothing. Everything was speed. There was an all-star game one time where the American League and National League, they get both these all-stars, and then they play in this game. Now, they're just our all-stars. If you win the game, you don't get anything except a pat on the back. Hey, good job. Because you're already getting paid a ton of money to go play in this all-star game. The same thing was true with the National Football League. They used to have an NFL game, all-star game, NFL players, pro players that made all pro. And but the problem was, when you're like that, most of the guys are like half speed. They don't want to get hurt. They don't want to get injured. This game doesn't mean anything. You're not going to the Super Bowl. You're going back to the locker room when this thing is done. You're taking a shower and you're leaving. And you're hoping you come the next year so you can go out there and play, touch football. That's really what it was. It was touch football. You grab a guy and you let him run like 5 yards, and then you kind of pull him down by his, pants or something, shirt. No, there's no hitting. No, each of the players could put an egg in their pocket, and I promise you, at the end of the game, all the eggs would still be there. Nobody's hitting anybody, smashing anybody, or anything like that. And so this Pete Rose guy, he's in an all-star game, and so he gets a hit, and he's rounding around third base, and the ball comes from the outfield, and the ball and Pete Rose get there at the same time. Pete Rose literally runs over the center. The umpire, not the umpire, the catcher. Man, it's been a while. He ran over the catcher, and it went flying. His glove went flying, and of course, Pete was safe on the plate. But it just goes to show you, we all have different understandings of what people want us to do, and I just feel like, after watching players like that, players that never stopped, always gave 100%, I really felt like that was the best choice.
All right, so another one I want to tell you, if you have a contact water, because I drink like 10 of these a day.
Yes.
I think they should sponsor our podcast.
Are you serious?
I think Perrier should sponsor our podcast, because I drink like 10 of these a day, and I love it. Perrier all day long. But then the second thing is, the question of the week that I got was, because I get a bunch of questions, but my favorite one that I got was, what was Doug Plank's favorite game he ever played?
You know what? Well, let me just say this. I think the one game.
Nobody ever knows the questions that I'm going to tell Doug, but like I get a whole bunch of questions, but I always pick the fun one. So, what's the best game you ever played and why?
Yeah. I'll just show you something. My third year in the league, we had to beat a team. We had to beat a team from St. Louis. That was the St. Louis Cardinals back before they moved to Arizona and all that sort of thing. But we had to win that game to get into the playoffs. Now, this playoffs have all these rules and stuff, and we were going to be even. If we won the game, our record was going to be even with another team in our league. So what was going to be the difference between our team and their team? Well, who had the most points on a differential? In other words, how many points did they win by each week versus what we won by? That was going to be the determining factor whether we went to the playoffs. And we knew in a game that we were going to have to score and win by like 35 or 40 points if we were going to go to the playoffs. Now, this is very interesting. We talked about what we think is going to happen happens, Megan. And so we're going into this game, and it's at Soldier Field, and it's cold. It's the last game of the year, and we have to beat this team by 35 points. Now, we were a boring team to watch. Walter Payton, God bless him, was unbelievable. I loved watching this guy. He ran and ran and ran and ran. We were not a high-scoring team. We barely threw. We threw screen passes and stuff like that. So think about this. We got to go into this game, and we know that we have to win this game by 35 points. And you know what happened? We end up winning the game by 35 points. And the reason being is because we had to. And we knew what the expectations were going into that game. And it was amazing that we played with a sense of urgency. In other words, the defense hurriedly got the other team off the field and put our offense out there to score. And so that game taught me you can be whoever you want to be. You got to decide before you do anything, whether it's in life, in sports, in relationships. You have to make a decision. Who are you going to be? Are you going to be someone that's respected, that works hard, is diligent, that never takes his eye off the target? Or are you going to be a goof off? And like so many of us are, that really don't care, don't put any effort into it. We don't care about it.
You and I are not like that at all. You and I are not like that at all.
Yeah. Right now, here's the other point too. In years past, whatever we did, it wasn't going to be on the iPhone. It wasn't going to be on what do they call it in outer space, where all those things are out there on the web or something. Okay, I'm sorry. I don't mean to act like I'm that ignorant. You can't do anything anymore. Even if you had done something back in kindergarten now, there's a tape recording of it. Googie gaga, wah, 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 wah. Yeah, that we interpreted that as, why did you not like that kid? This society we live in right now, it's every word we say, everything we do, there's a recording and a history of it. And that's all good, because I think, it's important when people know that something is going to be permanent. Things change. And here's what I'm talking about. If you're going through your life and you're in a store and you're a young person or something, you're in a candy store, whatever. Would you ever think about stealing some penny or nickel worth of candy? Yeah, I think we all did. Went through our mind at least. Maybe we didn't act on it. But my point is, whatever we think about, a lot of times that's what we do. That's the actions that we do. And so when we start thinking about what we want to become and how we want to get there and all those things, it does happen. It does happen. We start we start working harder. We don't even realize it. We're working harder and faster and stronger. And going into that game, when we knew that we had to win by 35 points, we did it. We won like 42-7. Now, that was the highest scoring game we ever had that year. And we're playing against basically like a playoff team. But we know what, we never gave up. I mean, we were start to finish the whole way through it. But you know what? That's like people. Anyone can become anything they want. I'm sorry. You just get up early, get started. Don't waste your time. You know, I think half the time that we have in life, we just waste.
I never, ever post anything about my personal family. I'm so excited. I just got to share. My daughter flew to New York today. One of her really great friends here in California turned 18. And her mom, who is a friend of mine, said, I'm going to pay for somebody to go to New York, but I want you to pick a girl that's going to be with you for the rest of your life. And she said, well, that would be Megan Johnson-Zucaro, which is my daughter. So my daughter flew to New York today, and I'm so excited for her. And so they're going to have like 4 days of just really fun stuff. And I love the family as a whole. I love the family as a whole, but I'm so excited for my daughter.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. I think that, you know, I think we all have a responsibility to pass along information that we know that was successful in our life, that we tried and it worked. Why wouldn't we want to pass that along to our children? We would want to pass that along. And, you know, I think of it all the time. And like I said, we think of 100 things during the day, but, you know, we never act on them. But you know what? Why not have a piece of paper handy all the time? I do now, even in my car. I write stuff down when I come to a stop sign, you know, thoughts that I'm having and, you know, doing things. I think the more things that we can write down, you know, otherwise they're just in space, you know, and they just come through our brain, one ear out the other. See you later. You know, we're never going to talk about it again. Never think about it. I think, man, take the time to put down a few of your ideas.
All right, okay, so I'll see you next week. Appreciate you. You're spectacular as always, and thanks for being on our podcast. And we'll be back here next week for the week. And I hope and pray everybody enjoys the podcast, because Doug and I just want to be a positive influence and be a positive force. So if you have questions, like I always say, email us at m@magazine.com or call or text. I think you can find sms podcast.com. You'll find all the information, and Doug and I are here to be an inspiration and to help you and to be a positive force. That's what we're all about. So, all right, Doug, I'll see you next week.
All right, sounds good, Megan. Can't wait. Take care.
Bye.